Christopher Phelps, an Associate Professor of American History at the University of Nottingham. Professor, welcome to the program. Would you say Trumpism is now the mainstream of American conservatism, if I can say the word?
Well, I suppose the question is, what is Trumpism? Trump, of course, lost an election last year. And not only that, the Republicans lost control of the Congress. So the Democrats now have a very marginal control over both the House and the Senate. And you would think that a party that suffered a defeat like that, because it's typical that American presidents serve 2 terms. It's very unusual for an incumbent president to be defeated. You would think there'd be a soul searching and a rethinking and a backing away of what the party stood for in the election. But instead, the Republican leadership seems to be doubling down in its support of Trump. And Trump, although he's been banned from his social media accounts, Twitter and Facebook, nonetheless retains his hold on the Republican voting base. And so, yes, in a short answer to your question, I would say that Trump retains his grip on the Republican Party. The question is whether that's an ideology or more of a personal rule and can shift depending on Trump's whims. I'm not sure there's a set of principles that one would associate with an ism. It's more fealty to the man himself.
And will that fealty eventually lead to a split in the Republican Party? Could it go that far?
Well, what we're seeing happen today, as you said, is the removal, almost certainly, of Liz Cheney from the Republican House leadership in Congress. Now, Liz Cheney, of course, is the daughter of Dick Cheney, who viewers may remember as the vice president under George W. Bush. This is an arch-conservative Wyoming family, heavily connected to the oil and gas industries. Dick Cheney is no liberal. He was probably the brains of the George W. Bush administration and was most responsible for the invasion of Iraq. And so this is not some kind of centrist figure being displaced, but this is somebody who believes in classic rule of law as a cardinal principle of conservatism. In a way, what we're seeing is the very old split between neoconservatives and paleoconservatives, as it used to be discussed in the 1990s. And the paleoconservatives are more centered in the evangelical right, whereas the neoconservatives were more globalist in their ambition, i.e. the Iraq War. And the Cheney family is much, just like the Bush administration itself, is much more in that camp. And we're seeing a kind of pushback from them and a refusal to allow the party to simply become a personal tool of Donald Trump's. But interestingly enough, they no longer seem to be the center of power. Trump himself seems to be the center of power, and the Republican leadership, even including many Republican politicians who chafed under Trump when he was in office, who probably don't really warm to him as a personal figure, who would rather see some other reality materialize, don't have the courage or the vision to get out from under his grip. And it's interesting to see Liz Cheney take this position. She may be positioning herself for a political future, but at the moment, it's actually probably it might be the end of her political career, because the voters in Wyoming may throw her out. The Republican base in Wyoming may throw her out for her stances that she's taking.
Christopher Phelps, thank you so much indeed for giving us that analysis. Take care.